Good evening and welcome into Tennessee Volunteers live on the Voice of College Football Network. Tucker Harlan and Jordan Binkley with you on this Monday evening. We appreciate all of you guys for joining us tonight. If you like what you see, please like, share, and subscribe to Tennessee at the Voice of College Football. Gets you close to all the great Tennessee football content that you enjoy. I hope you guys all had a phenomenal weekend. And Jordan, it just hit me that between tonight and the start of college football, so not week 1, week 0, we've only got one more show.
Oh, things are cooking up now.
Yeah, and you got a good game in week 1 too, or week 0, I should say, with I believe it's Iowa State and Kansas State.
Okay, yeah, that'll be a good one.
The Ireland game, so that should be fun. And I'm really looking forward to week 1 too. You're going to have some pretty phenomenal games in that first week of the season, but Jordan, how are you doing on this Monday evening?
I'm doing pretty good. My girlfriend just got back in town, so I've been spending a lot of time with her. Working a new job starting this week. So that's exciting. Yeah, pretty much just been hanging out, just enjoying time with family and everything. How's your weekend been?
Yeah, it's been good. Been good. Moved the younger brother into an apartment in Chattanooga, so I guess that was fun. A little tiring, but it was fun. Just looking forward to college football getting here, and we're going to talk all about that tonight. As fall camp is, I guess, on the back half now. We're in week 3 of fall camp now with Tennessee football, and there's all kinds of stuff going on in fall camp. Feels like there is more drama this year than there has been in the last few years, certainly than any other time in the Heupel era. So, Jordan, I want to ask you a little choose your own adventure question. Would you like to start with the good news or the bad news? I think we have less good news to discuss, so we could get this out of the way quicker.
Yeah, I said we go ahead and do the good news first, soften the blow.
Okay, so really only one good headline that has come out of fall camp. Well, maybe two. Maybe there's two of them. But the one in particular that we want to focus on right now is the health of future All-American corner Jermod McCoy. He is back running in practice at full speed, cutting very well on that leg that he injured toward the ACL back in January. And that is a good sign for Tennessee. How will he translate onto the field once the season begins? We'll just have to wait and see. ACL tears affect different guys differently, but so far the results have been positive in fall camp.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting to see him back in pads again. Not sure exactly what all he's been going through with practice, but I mean, he's looked good, like you said, and like his cuts and everything, and the little drills that he's been doing. And he's recently just named first team All-American by the Sporting News for their preseason rankings. So a lot of expectations coming in with Jermod McCoy this season, and hopefully he'll be healthy by the time week 1 rolls, but I'm sure they're going to play him very sparingly for the first couple of games. But it's really great to see him back in pads, and, it's got to get Vols fans excited.
Yeah, it's a well-deserved accolade after what he did last season. You just got to be able or hope that he is able to keep it up after blowing out that ACL back in January. But certainly the best corner that I can remember at Tennessee in the last probably 10 years now. Like, I guess
Yeah.
Cam Sutton is the last one that really comes to mind of just being a guy that can go out and shut opposing wide receivers down. And even he, I don't think, was as effective as what we've seen out of Jermod McCoy just in the year that he's been here.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely been the most talented corner that I've seen play at Tennessee. But, I mean, honestly, during our lifetime, there hasn't been as many.
No.
I mean, there's not been any Dale Carters or anything like that playing for Tennessee. But yeah, Jermod McCoy, I mean, he's been an absolute beast since he stepped in Tennessee, and he's proven that, like the transfer portal can be a great asset for Tennessee. And hopefully some of these other transfer players that Tennessee got in the offseason, hopefully they can reach the same heights as McCoy, which I know it's like a little far-fetched, but I mean, you can always dream.
Yeah, hearing some other good things about the tight end room as well, which is not overly surprising. I think if you had to name the most reliable player on this offense going into the season, it would have to be Miles Kitselman. just based on what we saw last year. And we'll see how much of a step he takes this year. But just with the receiver room being a little bit depleted and maybe not as deep as it could have been going into this season, then you might see him and potentially Ethan Davis getting more touches too. But you've got a nice little pipeline going through at tight end right now, and that's good to see for this team, especially if that's going to be a big part of the passing attack.
Yeah, and everything I've heard about Kitzelman in particular during the offseason has gotten me really excited. I mean, he seems like he's a pretty important leader on Tennessee's offense, maybe the most vocal leader on the offense. Hard to say being an outsider looking in, but I mean, everything he said at SEC Media Days are spot on, like giving praise to Aguilar and his other teammates and everything like that. And I mean, yeah, with the Tennessee's receiving core being a little depleted this year, I mean, I could see Kitzelman having a big step up this season and play a bigger role. And even Ethan Davis too. I mean, I think the Vols are more talented at tight end right now than they are receiver. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how that all plans out. And maybe, who knows, maybe a tight end leads the team in receiving this year, which I can't remember the last time that happened at Tennessee.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but I can't tell you.
And maybe Michael Rivera one year, but probably not, considering the receivers that were also on the roster.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, because Derrick would have been on the team in 2011. Who else would have been there that year? Because Justin Hunter would have been out by that point in the season. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank.
I mean, it definitely wasn't Luke Stock, or maybe Wolf did, but I don't think so.
That doesn't sound right, because Josh Malone was, I believe, the guy in 2016.
Yeah, I mean,
but he was good that season. Wolf was.
Yeah, but yeah, like needless to say, I mean, Tennessee's never really had like tight ends like leading the team receiving, so that could be something exciting that could happen this year. I mean, depending on how everything goes.
Yeah, but you would prefer to find a very good receiver and ride with that. You just don't see very many 1,000-yard tight ends. I mean, the only ones that really stand out to me recently, just as breakout guys, are obviously Brock Bowers and then Michael Mayer from Notre Dame a few years back. So Rivera was the last one, we're being told.
Okay.
Which
that makes a lot of sense.
Just given how things transpired in 2011. So that's about all the good news I have for us out of training camp, because there are some things happening that are not so great developments coming out of camp. Witten was the last one before, by the way, if you wanted to know.
Witten's not surprising at all.
No, that's not a surprise at all. All right. So let's shift to the bad stuff, because there are some things we need to that we are obligated to discuss tonight. So number one, they had a scrimmage the other week, and it sounds like the defense is ahead of the offense, which I don't think anybody should be surprised by that. But I'm also hearing that Merklinger and Aguilar did not look stellar in those scrimmages. Like the numbers were, at least with completion percentages, were around 50% in some cases. So I don't know what to take away from that. We know the defense is good. Maybe that's just part of it. Maybe that's why this offense has not been as productive in fall camp out of the gate, but we shall see in week one what is really going on here.
I will say, I mean, at least on the bright side, if you want to look at a bright side for the situation, I mean, at least Aguilar and Merklinger, and all the guys on offense, they're practicing against a pretty good defense, or at least like how they performed last season. And like, as we said, we didn't think Tennessee's defense is going to miss a step this season. So at least they're getting a little additional reps against a strong defense that might be better than most of the defenses that they have to play during the season. But I mean, 50% completion percentage is not something that you want to hear if you're trying to get excited for your team's offense. That's for sure.
No, not at all. And it sounds like there are some other problems with the offense as well, involving both the depth at wide receiver. We're not hearing much about running back, other than that Star Thomas is a guy that could be used heavily in the rotation, which is something that would not surprise me at all. I have full belief in Deshaun Bishop, but at the same time, I know that Star Thomas has played a little bit more college football than him, maybe a little bit more Power 5 ball than him, I would say as well. But again, it all centers around the wide receivers. Is that part of the problem for the quarterbacks? Again, something we won't find out until week 1. But we do have a pretty substantial problem to address with the wide receiver room tonight, and it involves Chris Brazzell. He was arrested over the weekend for going 60 miles an hour in a 35-mile-an-hour speed zone. And to add on to that, he was driving on a suspended license because of a missed court date from back in 2024. And I don't want to pile on too much, but you look at the guys that Tennessee has gotten out of the transfer portal under Josh Heupel. There have been a few guys that have been successful, right? Guys like Velus Jones. I know Pruitt got him, but he still had a very good second year out there for Tennessee. Brew McCoy, when healthy, was very, very good. Hendon Hooker obviously was terrific. Dante Thornton, I think, is one that if he had stayed healthier, he could have been really, really good for this Tennessee team. And then you look at the ones that haven't done so well. I think Lance Hurd, a big part of it for him has been just trying to rehabilitate from injury mid-season is not an ideal thing to do. But I think my least favorite right now has got to be Chris Brazzell because, and I don't know how much of this is on Nico. It could have very well been, right? But he was underwhelming last season. Let's call it like it is. He didn't have a stellar 2024 season. None of the receivers really did, but I just think you thought you were going to get so much more out of him. Now you're expecting him to move into that receiver one role, kind of take on a little bit more of a leadership role on this team. And not only is he hurt, he's doing this while he's hurt. And he was back in individual drills today going at half speed from what I saw just from the reporters that were there. But if this doesn't light a fire under him to go out and prove the haters wrong, then I don't know what will.
Yeah, I mean, of course, every Tennessee fan is hoping that he can have like that breakthrough season. I mean, maybe this could be a motivating factor for it, but like the more I've looked into the details of his situation, it didn't sound as bad as it initially did when you like saw the headline and saw that he was arrested, because apparently like his license was suspended before because he failed to appear in court, but originally he was charged with failure to carry vehicle insurance. So that was the whole reason like all of this started to begin with. I mean, I think on the bright side, not trying to make any justifications, because obviously you shouldn't be going 60 in a 35 zone. But like at least there is not like, it doesn't sound like he was trying like speed race, or he didn't have like any weapons, no drugs, nothing like that, no like violence of any sort. So on the bright side, I mean, at least that they're like, I don't think this necessarily explains character issues to him for him per se. So I think that's one takeaway that you could get from this.
Yeah, that's a positive. And unlike Myles Garrett, who was apparently cited for going 160 last night, he's being a little bit safer. I just saw that on the Twitter timeline. Couldn't help but mention it just with this conversation. But, the Heupel era, you've not seen too many disciplinary issues. I'm trying to think. There was some situation with a cat and like a reserve linebacker in the first year. You had the Jalen McCullough situation in 2022, but I mean, when a guy breaks into your dorm and starts yelling things at your girlfriend or your apartment, what are you going to do? You want to chase that guy out of your apartment if he's yelling all kinds of mean things at your girlfriend. And then the other one was James Pierce last season, or 2 seasons ago, I should say, with the routine traffic stop. So there have been some situations, but they've thankfully been few and far between. And we've seen much worse than this one. I think this is something that the staff can get right, and they will get right. But you really need to see a lot from Chris this season, just because it's it's been one of the more disappointing acquisitions so far out of the portal.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, he was like a young guy coming out of Tulane, and like I'm looking at his stats right now. I mean, before he came to Tennessee, he had 700 yards, so I mean, not too far off from 1,000. He had 5 touchdowns, and I'm assuming he was probably like wide receiver 2, number 3 in that Tulane offense, and was still putting up decent numbers. But then, like he came to Tennessee. His numbers were literally like half of that, like 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. So I mean, he's been underwhelming for sure, but I mean, I feel like it's been like that with a lot of the receivers as of like at least the past season or so. I mean, I know we mentioned Thornton and like, unfortunately he wasn't in the system longer and didn't have as much to shine. But I felt like he underperformed a little bit. And then, like Mike Matthews seemingly just did not get any targets last year, which I think surprised a lot of fans. I think he may have had like 5 catches or something like that the entire season. So, I mean, Tennessee is going to need Brazel this year to really step it up. I mean, especially if he is going to be that wide receiver 1 kind of role, then yes, I mean, Tennessee's going to have to rely on him a lot this season, especially with a brand new quarterback, whether it's Merklinger or if it's Aguilar, it doesn't matter. They're still going to need experienced guys out there. And like, you would hate for Mike Matthews to have to be the guy, even though like, I think he has the talent potential to be so, but like, you don't want that kind of pressure hanging on like a 19-year-old, 20-year-old's head.
Yeah, I think you definitely want him to potentially take over as that guy. Either him or Braylon Staley can really emerge as the most productive receiver in this system. Staley's another one that has been dealing with some injuries as well, so that makes basically all 3 of them that have been banged up at some period in camp, which is not great. But you got to find a guy in this room because I think that was a little bit of the problem last year. You had a few too many good receivers on your team, which, I mean, that sounds like a good problem to have, but as you got into the regular season, it kind of presented itself like, okay, we don't really know our roles here. Who is supposed to be the first option, and like who is Nico's first option on this team? You just didn't see that. You didn't see it last year, and I don't know if that was a detriment to Nico or what over the course of the season. But it is something you're going to have to establish this year, I think, if you want to see a better offense.
Yeah, and speaking of last season, like I like what you said about Nico and everything, because even after the season ended, I don't even know if there was a true wide receiver number 1. Like I think a lot of us expected Brew McCoy to be that guy, but I mean, he dealt with his injuries and everything, and of course had to medically retire recently. But I mean, yeah, like there really didn't seem to be a number 1 guy when there always was, like in years prior, like with Jalen Hyatt, and then like even before then, Cedric Tillman was doing good before Hyatt had the breakout. I mean, so yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing that you mentioned there, because like the more I think about it, yeah, there's not a number 1 receiver that really shined last season.
Stevie says we are going to stink. I don't
know. I don't know if I buy into that.
Choose joy, my friend. Choose joy, my friend.
Yeah, I don't know if I buy into that. I think like I mentioned before, I think like 8 is like the floor, maybe 7, but probably closer to 8. I mean, Tennessee has a relatively easy schedule this season.
Posty says it needs to be Brazel or Matthews, really hoping one of them makes the year 2 jump in Heupel's offense. Yep, that's the hope, absolutely. You could have Matthews out there as like the Velus Jones in your offense, whereas Brazel could morph into like that Cedric Tillman role would be your hope, if we're comparing Heupel offenses.
Yeah.
Yep. So that is what we've got on the receiver room right now. Not exactly a pleasant situation, and unfortunately, that is not the last unpleasant situation we have to discuss. This has popped up just within the last couple of hours. We thought the Boo Carter stuff was coming to a close, but it's not. We've got parents running their mouths on social media about Tennessee again, and I just got to say it's very discouraging to see this. going to see if I can find some of them. I'm not going to show them to you because I'm not sure if I'm allowed to show you any of this. In fact, I'm probably not. But essentially singing a lot of praises of Colorado while tearing down Tennessee at the same time is what Boo Carter's mom has done on Facebook this afternoon. And that's now two parents, well, really three parents in the Tennessee athletic department that have said nasty things about Tennessee for whatever reason. And it's really upsetting because these kids are very, very talented, and I don't really think they want this sort of interference in the in their collegiate careers. But it's really disappointing, really, really disappointing to know that these red flags exist with parents and that they're trying to essentially manipulate things that their kids are having to make decisions on, and of course the coaches in return are making decisions on.
Yeah, I mean, it's an unfortunate situation to see for sure. And I mean, I know like just from my time playing high school football that like it was never even an option for parents to like voice their concerns to like the high school coaches. That was considered to be like, not acceptable behavior. And like, I don't know if there's been any direct conversations with Josh Heupel and any of these parents or anything, but I mean, it's unfortunate to like, see like Colorado like getting its praise and all that, especially when Boo Carter was originally linked to Colorado up until recently because he like returned to practice and everything, even after missing like team meetings and activities and stuff. And it confuses me too because his mother made a Facebook post before talking about how she already like maybe like a week or so ago she was talking about how she already had 3 outfits picked out for like Boo's first 3 games of the year, and like just out of nowhere just coming out today and talking about how Deion Sanders has gotten all these players drafted to Colorado and stuff. Like I just don't know why the changing of the opinion so quickly, and why even a voice your opinion, especially when like your son is national like headlines in the college football world. It's like you don't want to bring any more attention to him, or at least I would think.
Listen, I'll say this: a lot of these kids do not deserve to be making 7 figures. The last 2 parents that have complained about their kids not receiving enough compensation did not deserve the 7 figures they were asking for. It's the truth. They haven't proven enough. Like Boo Carter showed glimpses of being a really good player last year, but when you really get down to it, do you actually think he is worth that much right now? And I don't think that's the case. And college sports are supposed to serve as this developmental bridge between high school and whatever professional league you're going into, and in this case, NFL. And these kids are getting, they deserve to make money. Obviously, we've agreed on that. If people are going to make millions of dollars off them, they got to be able to share in the profits in some form or fashion. That's fine, but I just think you're missing some key points here with some of these people, and this whole idea of maximizing your earning in college as an athlete seems a little bit counterintuitive. Because the whole goal is that you perform well enough in college to make it in the next level so that you can get those big checks from your NFL organization or whatever sport it is you're playing. And I think that's missing with some of these people right now.
Well, I think another thing that hurts too is that a lot of these players are being paid solely off of their potential and not necessarily their body of work. Like the numbers that were being thrown around when Nico was first coming to Tennessee, there was rumors it's like $8 million or something like that.
I think that was confirmed after a while, was it not?
Oh, I'm not sure. I didn't know if it ever was confirmed or not. But I mean, $8 million for a guy that never even threw his first pass in a collegiate football game, that's pretty wild. And like in Boo Carter's situation too, like, I mean, he was a true freshman last season. And yes, like you said, he showed lots of glimpses, and I think he has potential to be a phenomenal player for Tennessee. But he hasn't necessarily showed that he's worth that money yet. I think that like if the players that are getting paid the highest, I feel like should be the ones that have brought their team to like a 10-win season or something like that, and like made it the college football playoffs, like show something that says that you're worth that money. I mean, I'll say, like, not to like shoot him down too much, but like, like Nico, like he had a very average season at best last season. He's probably getting paid more than 99% of college football players. And it's just like, you want, like, of course, all these players should be getting paid. We've all agreed on that. But like, keep your like ideals in check, and there's still the NFL to look forward to at the end of the day too. And you don't want to put yourself in a position where you hurt your NFL stock too, which is going back to Nico again. I think like his situation, how he exited Tennessee. I mean, I feel like that's going to be something that teams are going to be asking him about in the draft process. I don't think that's a story that's going to die down. And probably the same thing with Boo Carter's situation. Is an NFL organization going to be like, well, is your mom going to like just talk crap about our organization and our team and like say all this and say that you need to be traded another team that poorly reflects on the team as a whole? And like, you're not going to want that for your locker room unless they're an exceptional talent. But like we've said, we haven't seen his talent fully get to go into flourishing yet in terms with Boo Carter.
Yeah, and looking at Joe Milton's season in 2023, no Tennessee fan in their right mind would say he deserves a raise after that season. It was fine, but I don't think he would have deserved a raise. You can't go out and put up worse numbers than Joe Milton and expect the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a problem. And we're seeing it too come out of Georgia. I know we don't talk a ton of Georgia on this show, but it sounds like they're hearing worse and worse things about what happened with Carson Beck and why he wound up at Miami after a while. So, I wonder at what point these college athletes are going to stop prioritizing NIL funds and focus on the larger goal here. Because these kids are talented enough to make it in there. They just need to, take the right coaching and at the same time, be content with what it is you're getting for a little bit. Again, it's not as if they can't work their way into getting more money. That's highly possible, but you just have to put in the work so that you can get that money.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a better investment to like shoot towards the NFL anyways. Like, what would you rather do? Make a couple $1 million, maybe $1 million, maybe $2 million, and then like just be financially responsible for the rest of your life, maybe work some like oddball jobs here and there and just coast off in the sunset that way? Or do you want to make like $50 million and never have to worry about anything ever again and get to tell your children that you got to play in the NFL, talk about all the people that you played with and everything? Like the NFL is always going to be the better investment. So I feel like some of these players are selling themselves short just wanting to capitalize off the money more so than actually putting the plays out on the field. I mean, because it's like, is your goal just to was your childhood dream to like make $1 million playing college football, or is your dream to be an NFL legend or something? And of course, not everyone's going to get to that level, but I mean, the lowest you get paid in the NFL is like a little bit less than $300K, I think. And I mean, like, this is like practice squad member. Like, you play like 4 seasons in the NFL, which is probably around the average 3 or 4 years, and like you can still make you some good money, and you get to say that you played in the NFL.
That's a 6-figure paycheck.
Yeah,
that's good. That's really good. I wish I had a 6-figure paycheck, but I don't.
Yeah,
so do most people. But you know what? They're the lucky ones. They're still getting, and you got these college athletes complaining that it's not 7. Which is kind of crazy, but money is a conversation that we can talk about all day. But we have other things to get to as well in the show. But that's all we got for fall camp this week. We will keep you guys updated on anything else as the week progresses in fall camp. But looking to another form of preseason here, week 1 of preseason NFL football has come and gone. And before you ask, I did not prepare another viewing guide for you for preseason football going into week 2, just because A, I didn't really feel like, and B, not everybody's going to watch preseason football. It's not available everywhere, and you only may need to tune into like a few minutes of a game. But I do have some takeaways from the first week of preseason football. And the first one is this, and it's kind of alarming, honestly. Hendon Hooker is unfortunately on the path to being cut from the Detroit Lions. He has not looked good in either of the preseason games he's played in. He cleaned it up a little bit at the end, but I think finished with just 38 pass yards in the game. And, you know, we mentioned it a little bit last week, but really looks like he has not been able to make a proper recovery from that ACL tear. And we mentioned it with Jermon McCoy, like, you don't know what a guy is going to do after he tears his ACL. He may only be half as good. And unfortunately, we may be looking at a situation like that with Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad to say the least. You know, like as y'all know, I don't keep up with the NFL as much as a lot of other people, but I mean, of course, you still want to see a Tennessee player go out there and, like, you know, bring some pride back to the school, be a successful NFL player. And if we're being honest, Tennessee really hasn't had much NFL talent from the quarterback position outside of Peyton Manning, who did a lot of the heavy lifting in that, right? So, I mean, I think a lot of Tennessee fans thought that Hendon Hooker had potential to be, like, you know, the second big quarterback to come out of Tennessee. But I mean, unfortunately, he's been buried on the depth chart, like, ever since he's been on the Lions. Like, they've done things like re-sign Teddy Bridgewater, even though he was like just a high school football coach, like pulling him away to get him in there. I mean, like, it's been looking bad for Hendon's situation for a while now. And I thought it was concerning that they had Kyle Allen like ahead of him to begin with.
Yeah.
And then the struggling on top of it. I mean, it's sad to see, especially because of how much Hendon brought, or all the things that he brought to Tennessee. Like, he is probably the biggest catalyst that people think of, like, outside of Josh Heupel, of course, like, in terms of like saving this program. Like, when you think of Tennessee finally turning things around and be able to stand on their feet again after getting beat down for years, you think of Hendon Hooker, and he brought Tennessee to heights that they had not seen since like the early 2000s. So he's always going to have a special place in Tennessee fans' heart. And it's unfortunate to see that his NFL career isn't panning out the way that I think everyone thinks that it should have been.
Here's a question that I was thinking about earlier today. Is Hendon Hooker our generation's Heath Schuler? A guy that is universally loved by the fan base, had a terrific playing career at Tennessee, but injuries just got in the way of what could have been a promising NFL career.
That's actually a pretty good comparison. I know that Heath Schuler was drafted higher than
much higher.
Yeah,
like,
much
he's considered, unfortunately, one of the biggest draft busts in NFL history. But again, that foot injury that he suffered was a big part of it. And unfortunately, I think the ACL tear, you can say the same about with Hendon.
Well, with Hendon's situation, I hope that he just isn't forgotten. And I'm not saying that Heath Schuler was forgotten, because he wasn't. I mean, he was a Heisman finalist at one point, and he was I think top 3 pick in the NFL draft or something like that, maybe top 5. And, you know, like, he was a very talented player at Tennessee, but I think as times went on, more people think of Peyton Manning, Casey Clausen, or maybe even like Hendon Hooker as of late, or Josh Dobbs. They're not thinking as much about Heath Schuler. And I hope that, like, even if Hendon Hooker's NFL career doesn't pan out, I hope that he's still remembered for like the legend that he was at Tennessee. I hope that he just like doesn't get thrown in at the tail end of conversations like it seems like Heath Schuler has been in recent years.
All right, so that's what we've got for my first takeaway. Number 2, Joe Milton. He's still Joe Milton. I know he went out and carved up the Bills last season at the end of the season and helped gave the Titans that number 1 overall pick, but he's still Joe Milton. He's still inaccurate. And the Cowboys better hope that Dak Prescott stays healthy.
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying it all along, and I hate saying it over and over again, because Joe Milton genuinely seems like a great guy. Like, he seemed like a great guy for Tennessee's locker room and everything like that. But man, he's quite disappointing. And, you know, like we said it before, Michigan fans tried to warn Tennessee fans, and then we've tried to warn Cowboys fans and Patriots fans. And it's just like, you know, you can expect him to come in and have one really great game when teams aren't prepping for him, because he has all the skills and abilities that you would want. but he just can't seemingly to put it together. It's like he has all the talent in the world, but he's like pressing the wrong buttons at the wrong times. And I don't know. Like it's disappointing because man, like he may have had the strongest arm of like any quarterback, even like currently, right? And maybe he has the strongest arm ever.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking like Ryan Mallett's another one you could throw in that conversation too from Arkansas. Rest in peace. Trying to think. Jacob Eason had a very strong but inaccurate arm. Yeah, Matthew Stafford's another good one too. Sam Bradford had a big one too. Not all those guys made it in the NFL, but Joe Milton, I just think from a pure physical standpoint, you haven't seen many other guys like that.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me a little bit of how, I mean, I know their play styles are way different and everything, but it reminds me a little bit of like Tyler Bray. He had like all the talent in the world from the arm strength department and everything like that, and he never really panned out. But he played in the NFL for a lot longer than I thought he would, like as a backup. So, I mean, there's always a job for that too. And maybe we were talking about money at the NIL. Maybe that's what people should try to become, like a Brian Hoyer type that's, like a longtime journeyman that, just steadily gets paid to hold a clipboard. I mean, that sounds like a pretty good gig to me.
Yeah, so final stats from last week for Joe Milton: 17 of 29 for 143 yards, touchdown, and a pick. And as Posty says, he's like a 5-year-old who is holding an Xbox controller for the first time. Like, I just don't get why you feel the need to put that much zip on the football all the time. Like, I get it. You want to be crisp and concise with your passes, but like these guys have fingers. They need to keep their fingers in order to catch your footballs.
And I've seen some quarterbacks go back and say they regretted the way that they played when they first started. Like, I think Matthew Stafford is actually one of them that I heard say that when he first came in the league, he was just throwing as hard as he could because it looked cool or whatever, and he thought it was the best way to work. But he was destroying his receivers' hands in the process, and had to change things up. And I heard Brett Favre had the same problem too. Like, you don't have to throw the 100-mile-an-hour fastball to complete a pass. You just got to get the ball into their hands.
Yeah, so one more thing from me on preseason NFL, and this isn't so much a takeaway as it is an update, and this is a little bit more of a positive spin for Tennessee players in the NFL, and that is Jalen Wright pretty much having the RB2 role falling into his lap at an unfortunate cost with Alex Madison going down with a season-ending neck injury. Devon Achane will still be ahead of him in the Dolphins running back rotation. They signed a couple of other guys today whose names are escaping me at the moment. One that I do remember watching, but they won't be ahead of Jalen Wright. But he's going to get to play more this season. I know he scored a touchdown this weekend too. So good for Jalen Wright for getting that opportunity, and a guy that is one of just a handful of guys that has rushed for over 1,000 yards recently for Tennessee.
Yeah, it's great to, see him get a little bit more of a chance in the NFL. Hopefully he can get some solid playing time this season and, get Tennessee running backs back into the centerfold again. Cause you know what? I was playing I put in old Madden 2003, into my PS2 about 2 years ago, just out of curiosity, just seeing where players are ranked and stuff like that. When I went to the running backs and there for the whole, all the NFL teams, there was 8 former Tennessee running backs, in the top 15. So it'd be nice to see Tennessee have some dominance in the NFL in terms of rushing. Cause during that time they had I think Jamal Lewis, Travis Henry, Charlie Gardner was playing for the Raiders. James Stewart, I think, was on the Jaguars during that time. I mean, there was a lot of studs that came out of Tennessee that were tearing it up in the NFL. And of course, you got Kamara right now. You got Dylan Sampson. We'll see what he ends up being and everything. And then, Jalen Wright. I mean, if he can start making some plays, getting better, become a full-time starter, that would be really cool to see.
Yeah, not a huge weekend for Dylan Sampson now that you mention it. Just 2 carries for 6 yards. You would think that means he will get more snaps in the rotation for the Browns this year. We'll see what happens with Quinshon Judkins, obviously. Don't know the whole situation there. The big story for the Browns, as you can imagine, was Shedeur Sanders making his NFL debut, which was surprisingly solid compared to what some of us were expecting. Jordan, anything else catch your eye in NFL preseason this week?
Not really, outside that I saw that Cedric Tillman and Dante Thornton were both named starters this week, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, Thornton I saw had a catch early in the game against the Seahawks. Obviously, being named a starter, he's not going to play a ton.
Yeah, I think that was his only one.
Yeah, it was. And Tillman, I don't think logged a reception at all. So
no.
But outside of that, I saw Velus Jones was struggling a little bit with the Saints. I think McAllen Castles got waived as well. So that's just part of it. And we will keep you guys updated on the NFL preseason happenings as they come. They may be a little bit more minor than most headlines that we go over. But if anything changes, we will tell you about it.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.
All right, everybody. Are you ready to get mad? You know what's coming, Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
You know what's coming, Jordan.
I figure that's why a lot of people are coming to this video, too.
Yes. It's today is the first day that we have an AP poll in front of us. And everybody loves to overreact at these things. And somebody was asking me today, and I actually don't know the answer, what the purpose of these things are. Like, is it just to judge what the talent looks like preseason for this team? Is this based on expectations going into the season? Like, does it have any kind of bearing from what happened last season? Like, there's a few different things that you could be interpreting these polls on, and I really don't have a good answer. So, Jordan, do you think there is a good purpose in an AP poll? Like what is their true purpose? I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I don't know, because I've wondered the same thing for years. Like, what's the criteria that the voters have for ranking these teams? Because, sometimes you'll see a national champion get dropped all the way down to, like, maybe as low as 6. And, like, right now, like, looking at the list, like, Ohio State's number 3, but they were national champions last year. So if it was based off last season, you would think they would be number 1. But, like, also, if it was based on last season, we wouldn't see one of these teams that was actually ranked ahead against Tennessee that had a 6-7 record, like, float in. I don't get it. I guess it would have to be based off of potential to, like, answer your question. But even then, like, there's so much, like, I just don't understand how you could put a team with less than 7 wins in the top 20. Like, that's just one thing confusing me.
All right. So let's get a look at this thing. Why don't we? Tennessee comes in at number 24 overall. Thoughts on that, Jordan?
It was funny because I was talking to my girlfriend earlier today, and I mentioned to her that the AP poll was going to be released, and she was like, well, what number would you be mad at or, like, upset to see Tennessee at? And I was like, if they are anything higher than 20, I'm going to think that it's absolutely ridiculous. But, yep, I was, maybe I spoke it in existence. I don't know what. But when I saw Tennessee was at 24, I was dumbfounded, especially too seeing the points that went in conjunction with it. Like, not only was Tennessee ranked 24th in the preseason poll, they were 82 points behind the 23rd team, which is Texas Tech, and only 1 point ahead of Boise State. So they were 1 point away from being 25 as well, almost like missing the top 25 in general. And you're talking about a team that went to the college football playoffs last year. I mean, obviously, based off this preseason poll, it has nothing to do with how the season ended.
Yeah. Seeing Tennessee at 24 obviously is not indicative of that. I think the bigger, I don't know if penalty is the right word, but the factor among the voters was Nico leaving. I don't know how that really changes Tennessee's outlook for the season. I would have thought Tennessee would have been higher than 24, especially with just some of the teams sitting ahead of it this season, going into the season with the first AP poll, but a little bit surprised by that. Because I think this team, it's very much capable of finishing in there, but I think, and I said this on the college football show on the Voice of College Football Network, I think Media Days week, this team could be a lot like Mizzou in 2024, where you win 9 or 10 games, but objectively the schedule is pretty weak, and maybe you just get by in a few close ones at home, and then get flattened in a couple of other big ones. I don't think Tennessee will get flattened in the big games this year, but I don't see a ton of potential to win in some of the big three like I did in years past.
Yeah, and I would agree on that too. Because, I mean, I think most of us can agree that Tennessee's top 3 most difficult games for the season is probably going to be Alabama, Georgia, and Florida.
Yeah.
With the exception of maybe Oklahoma being a difficult one, seeing how Mateer ends up playing. But Oklahoma is actually the team that I was mentioning, because Oklahoma, they finished 6 and 7 last year, and they're right there at 18, like 6 spots ahead of Tennessee. And looking at this list, I mean, I think you could have easily thrown Tennessee in the top 15. I mean, based on the other teams that are ahead of them. I mean, Iowa State, I'm not so sure about that. I know Indiana had a great year by their standards, but like Texas A&M, I didn't feel like I saw enough from them to be ahead of Tennessee. Oklahoma, I think it's all based on, the potential of their new starting quarterback. Kansas State, I'm a little confused with that one there. SMU, I think they just had lightning in a bottle last season. I don't think that's going to be repeated again. And then Florida, of course, Tennessee, beat them head to head. Michigan, I get why they're ranked high because they beat the national champions. I'm guessing that's why they're factored in there, but I haven't heard too much hype out of Michigan either. And then South Carolina makes a little bit of sense with all the Lenore Sellers hype. But then again, that's just hype too at the end of the day. So once again, what is the criteria that goes into this top 25 poll?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I was tuning you out a little bit there, Jordan, because something just appeared on my computer that I did not expect to see, and this may not even be true. Apparently, there are some gambling allegations going on with John Mateer that are floating around out there. They could be unsubstantiated rumors, but I'm seeing some Venmo transactions that say sports gambling on there. So not saying that actually happened, but we will keep an eye on that if it actually turns into something. But looking up and down this poll, it's just weird to me that we've gotten to a point where Drew Aller, Cade Klubnik, and Garrett Nussmeier are considered the 3 best quarterbacks in college football. I look at Nussmeier. Some people say he could be the very best. Maybe he's the best in the SEC. But when I look at him, I'm reminded a little bit of Tyler Wilson from Arkansas, a guy that is a good quarterback, but for the most part, he just stands in the pocket. He's not really a dual threat guy. And then 2, he's blessed with great wide receivers like they always are at LSU. So I don't really buy him as a guy that can go to the NFL and just tear it up. Cade Klubnik has still been disappointing in some instances. I just think the ACC is so weak right now that I'm just not really buying it with him this year. And then Drew Aller, I think Nico could run that offense effectively that they've got up there at Penn State and would be better than Drew Aller just because you don't need a quarterback to do a ton of that system, and the receivers are getting worse this year for Penn State. So seeing them at 2 and they haven't beaten Ohio State in what 9 years now, I think was the last time they did it in Happy Valley. And just ahead of some of these other teams like Georgia, who have proven that they can win the big game in the past. Even Oregon and Alabama, I think. Well, I don't know about Oregon just because they got a new quarterback, but I look at Alabama like I trust them a little bit more historically than Penn State to win big games.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of surprise. I mean, even Miami being in the top 10 after losing Cam Ward and their all-time leading receiver. And I think Tyler Barron's gone now too, right? Or is he still there?
Yeah, he's gone. He's on the Jets. We talked about him a little bit last week.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So, I mean, Miami, I don't really get that at all. I guess Carson Beck, but then again, I mean, I felt like Carson Beck was a very hit or miss quarterback too, and his stats might not necessarily show that, but I mean, I don't really have much stock in him either. And like, I don't know, Clemson number 4, they barely like made it to where they ended last season. I mean, with a couple of different moves, they wouldn't even been in the playoffs at all. Yeah, I don't know. It's quite confusing. At least I think Clemson's way too high on there. Miami's shocked to see them in the top 10. And then about like 11 through 25, I feel like you can interchange most of those teams and just mix and match them wherever you wanted to. I don't really know what else to say. It's just a very confusing list, to be honest.
Yeah, ACC has just 3 teams in the poll, which is the fewest of any conference. And you're right about Clemson. I think they're good. I've seen way better Clemson teams ranked in similar spots than this one, though. Like, I don't think this is Dabo Swinney's best bunch by any means. So it's surprising to see them that high. I'm trying to figure out who of the top 10 would bottom out, because there's always that one team like Michigan and Florida State last year. Obviously, Michigan redeemed itself a little bit at the end of the season, but of course, Florida State had an unbelievably bad season. Looking up and down this list, I think the answers could be Oregon or Miami just because of the quarterback situations there. We don't know how Dante Moore is going to do at Oregon. Miami, Carson Beck was very underwhelming last season. Maybe he's underwhelming again this year. Time will tell. LSU, I don't think bottoms out, but I do think the road schedule dictates a lot of what they can do this season. And then Notre Dame is also unsettled on quarterbacks right now. And people usually complain about Notre Dame being ranked this high, but guess what? Marcus Freeman is 33-9 and just made it to a CFP title for the first time last season as a head coach out there. So I think this is pretty proper. So I don't think Notre Dame falls out just because they're not a quarterback-dependent football team. But those would be my guesses right now for teams to bottom out in the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you for Miami. I think that's like the most notable one in the top 10. I mean, the other teams are proven for the most part. I mean, there's question marks with LSU because, Brian Kelly never can seem to take it to the next step. Like, always has good recruiting classes, usually is good for 9 to 10 wins in a year, but just can't necessarily get over the hump. So LSU, I would definitely say that they have potential to fall out of the top 10. Oregon, like I know new quarterback and stuff. I'm a Dan Lanning believer. So, I mean, I would think Oregon still makes it in the top 10, but who knows? I mean, I know Dylan Gabriel had a phenomenal season last year and they're losing him now. Notre Dame, like you said, I mean, Marcus Freeman's proven himself at this point. I think Notre Dame, especially considering they essentially get to create their own schedule every year and everything too. Yeah. I mean, I think Notre Dame.
Hey, it's a fairly complicated schedule though. Just looking at it, because they're at Miami to start the season, so there's that. You get Texas A&M at home a little bit later. I know they're at Arkansas at one point. I got to remember who else was on there that was
They're
really
playing
good.
Clemson. I think they signed a contract thing with Clemson to play them for like the next 10 years or something like that.
I'm going to look this up because it's bothering me that I don't know it. Boise State could potentially be difficult. I know Genty's gone, but Boise State's always one of the better group of 5 programs. They're also at Pittsburgh, which is not the easiest game in the world. USC is still around. No Clemson anywhere, though. So,
okay. Maybe that's a future thing then.
yeah, I think it actually may be a future thing, but I know what you're talking about. I did see that whenever they signed that deal. But overall, I think Notre Dame should be able to work things out and make a good season out of this year. But looking at some of the other teams ahead of Tennessee, I don't know if I buy some of these Big 12 teams being ahead of Tennessee. You've got a lot of experienced quarterbacks in the Big 12, and I think that plays a big factor in the rationale for putting these teams so high. But the Big 12 is also a very confusing conference now because now that Oklahoma and Texas are both SEC teams, you don't really have an idea of who's going to win it every year. We thought Utah and Oklahoma State would be the 2 teams that could get it done last year. Guess what? They were near the bottom of the league.
Yeah.
Colorado, who everybody said, no, they're not going to be good this year. They're coming off a 4-8 season. They don't really show any signs of promise. Guess what? They made it to an Alabama Bowl last season. BYU, who also finished 5-7 the previous year, they were knocking on the door of the college football playoff. Arizona State, who was coming off, I think, a postseason ban, and they couldn't have won more than 3 games in 2023. They won the conference, went to the college football playoff. So you really never know with this conference, and it's going to be fun for that reason. You know, Arizona State, I get why they're ranked so high. I don't know if they'll have as magical of a season this year as they did last year. Looking at Kansas State as well, they're consistent. I don't know if I would pick them to win the conference and make the CFP. Who does that leave? Iowa State and Texas Tech. Look, Iowa State historically is one of the worst Power 4 programs in the country. And I think they're going to be good again this year because Rocco Becht is back there at quarterback. They'll be good. But I still don't believe they're in any kind of contention to win a championship. So that's just my 2 cents on them. And the Texas Tech, it just feels like every year since Mike Leach left, it's been somewhere between 5 to 8 wins every year and not much better than that.
Yeah, and with Texas Tech, isn't like most of their hype based off of like NIL and the money that they were able to fund? I mean, that's not enough, I would think, to put them in the top 25. I'm not sure.
They are throwing millions of dollars at softball players, Jordan.
Softball players?
Softball players. One left Tennessee because of that. I was talking about the angry parents of Tennessee athletes earlier. That was one of them. And then there was a pitcher that signed a pretty fat check down there as well. So, all kinds of money being thrown around out there. Obviously, they got plenty for football. It's that oil money. All the Texas schools have it. They'll use it to their advantage, as they should. But like most things in Texas, bigger does not always equal better, as is the case with Texas A&M. They have not been they have not been better for the most part. They've topped out at 8-5 most seasons since joining the SEC. So we'll see if the money actually works. But of course, that can be a point of conflict in locker rooms, as we have learned here recently.
Yeah, and I'm looking at their schedule from last season. Like, they did better than I thought. I didn't really keep up with them much last year, but they went 8-5 and everything. So, I mean, I guess they're justified in being the top 25. I just don't really see them being ahead of Tennessee, especially by 82 points, like I mentioned earlier. But yeah, I mean, as far as like the Big 12 teams go, I mean, I think Arizona State, I think there's still potential for them to be good this year with Levitt coming back and everything. Even with losing Scadaboo, I think Arizona State can still be pretty good. I don't know, like these Big 12 teams, and honestly, it's still taking me time to adjust to seeing Texas and Oklahoma on here and not think of them as a Big 12 team. but yeah, like I don't know. These Big 12 teams, I mean, who knows how they finish this year? Like you said, since Oklahoma and Texas has left, I mean, things are pretty much up in the air now. And like you got teams that weren't even in the Big 12 prior, like Arizona State coming in and then doing as well as they did. So I mean, yeah, I don't really know what to expect from a lot of these Big 12 teams. But I see on there too that BYU and Utah nearly missed it.
Yeah, Baylor was another one that just missed the cut, and some people are saying they could win the Big 12. I know Phil Steele is very high on them this year. BYU, I understand why they got left out. The quarterback situation in July of all times of year, that's not good for that to occur. And I'm just looking down at this list, see if I can find any others. Did you say Auburn was one?
Auburn's interesting. Yeah, they were receiving votes.
Yeah, they usually get some votes just because you never know what's going to happen down there on the plains for most seasons, but it does kind of feel like their ceiling is 7 wins this year.
And Florida State's on the list?
Yeah, that's a goofy one. That's a really goofy one.
That is shocking.
Yeah, well, they got more votes than Liberty and Louisiana Lafayette, and even TCU didn't have that many votes, and TCU won 8 or 9 games last season, so
but
that's
a 2-win team.
Yeah.
That is
maybe they just don't think they'll be down forever, I guess is the rationale there.
I guess, but yeah, if you're basing it on last season, it makes no sense whatsoever for them to even be ranked in like the top 100.
All right, so looking at some of the other teams that are ahead of Tennessee here, do you really trust South Carolina at 13 with Shane Beamer? Like his career at South Carolina has been an absolute roller coaster.
I mean, I think they'll hit some highs like they typically do throughout the year, but like hovering, finishing the season around the 13 spot, probably not.
Yeah. And then looking at the Big Ten teams here, Illinois at 12 seems a little high. I can justify putting them somewhere between like 17 and 20, but Big Ten Burt has run his mouth just for having one good season up there. Can he actually sustain it, though, is the big question. I know he was solid at Wisconsin, but he had a horrible SEC record when he was at Arkansas. So I don't know if they'll be able to sustain that kind of football up there, especially at a program like Illinois that is not a traditionally great football program. So we'll see if they can do it. Indiana at 20, that's just goofy. You're just riding off that one season last year. I don't know. Maybe they come out and have a nice 9-win season, and they're justified for having that ranking. And you lock Kurt Signetti into a long-term deal because of it. But do you really expect Indiana to stay that good for 2 seasons in a row? It's just not who they are historically.
No, but I will say I haven't kept up with Illinois as much, but I have heard that there's a lot of hype with them coming into the season. I saw someone online somewhere say that they expect them to be in the Big Ten championship, which I would think is pretty surprising.
It's just your average Big Ten football team.
That's what it seems like.
Good defense and running the football, not much else involved.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just a couple people in the comment section everywhere online. Maybe it's not like a widely accepted thing, but I have seen Illinois' name thrown around as like a team to keep an eye on. So I guess we'll see about that. Indiana, though, like you said, like I think a lot of it was based off last season for sure. I mean, because they exceeded everyone's expectation. I mean, first of all, with Indiana, like you think about them basketball first and foremost. You don't associate them with football. So, I mean, it'd be hard to see them repeat the same success that they had last season. I think a lot of it was due to easier scheduling, too. And I'm not sure what their schedule looks like this year, but
I'll pull it up for you.
Yeah, I highly doubt that they have the same success that they did the year before. Don't know as much about Kansas State and what they have to offer, to be honest. I know SMU, like I said earlier, I think just caught lightning in a bottle. Florida, like, I get it with all the hype that's surrounding their offense and everything, but I think Florida is a little bit unproven as well. And like I was hammering home earlier, it's just so shocking that Oklahoma is sitting there at 18, because that's just exclusively made on hype. And if the situation with Mateer, if that ends up being true.
I don't think it's true, but if it did, that would be a pretty serious nail in the coffin for Brent Venables, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, because surely, I mean, he'd be suspended for probably around the entire season. I don't even know what they would do about that, to be honest.
You look at South Carolina, Florida, and Oklahoma. I think all three of those teams, their success is going to be dictated by how they do on the road. Because I could very well see all of those teams finishing like 8-4 just because they all have very complicated road games. You look, Florida's got to play at Miami. They're at LSU later on in the season, at Ole Miss, who's 21 in this poll. There's another big one that I'm missing somewhere, slipping on me. Anyway, they play at Kentucky too. They're at Texas A&M. That's who I was missing. That's the number 19 team in this initial poll. And because you see the same problem with LSU too. You got Bama, Ole Miss, Clemson, and Oklahoma all on the road. Ooh. Oklahoma's got to go to Alabama, South Carolina, and Tennessee. So I think the big question is, can somebody emerge and win some big games in the road in the SEC and really solidify themselves as a college football playoff team? That's my big question this year, just with some of these teams in the poll. So I promised I'd give you Indiana's schedule, and I've got it right here in front of me. They have a cakewalk in non-conference play. They got Old Dominion, Jerry Mack's Kennesaw State Owls, Indiana State, the Sycamores come to town.
Larry Bird
on September 13th. Yeah. Open conference play with Illinois at home. That should be a pretty fun game.
Okay.
You've got two contrasting Big Ten teams there with Indiana trying to be a little bit more pass happy. And then, of course, you got Illinois just playing smash mouth football. You're at Iowa, which is never an easy place to play. Iowa is known for playing boring football. But I do think that's going to be a tough game for Indiana, just having to go out there. They're at Oregon, too. That's not easy.
Ooh.
That's not easy at all. Then get Michigan State and UCLA at home. Those are winnable games, I feel like. At Maryland, also pretty winnable. Then you're at Penn State, which I think is another one that could be complicated, especially if that happens to be a night game. Then you finish out the season with Wisconsin. You get a bye week, and then you're at Purdue. So I think maybe 20 is justifiable just because you could find a way to 9-3 there realistically. But I think it's probably closer to like 8-4.
Yeah, I mean, if they're even like as good as they were last season too, I mean, I could see them dropping more games than 4 too. I mean, it just depends on how it plays out, but yeah, they got some tough ones in there. Did you say LSU was one of their away games?
Who? Indiana? No.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
Okay, I was about to say then that's like a guaranteed loss right there. I mean, Penn State's going to be a difficult one for sure, as well. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Indiana, I guess around 20.
It's fair for now.
Yeah, it's fair for now.
But if they go out and win by like a touchdown against Kennesaw State, then they'll be in trouble. All right, so looking at some of, I guess, the last couple teams, but before we end out the show here, that are ranked ahead of Tennessee that we hadn't mentioned. One of them's SMU. Jordan, you mentioned it earlier. Very much a lightning in the bottle type season. And when you look at the ACC over the last 10 years or so, there's only one program that has really sustained their success, and that's Clemson. Florida State, post Jimbo Fisher, has been a hot mess. Miami is not the Miami it was 20 years ago. You're going to have some long-term stability from Mario Cristobal to convince me otherwise. And, I mean, you look everywhere else. Even Lamar Jackson was only so good at Louisville. You know, they fell off a little bit the next year. Even took a few uncharacteristic losses when he won the Heisman back in 2016. And then you look at everybody else, it's, you know, you're happy to have 8 wins a lot of seasons, it feels like. If you're talking about ACC programs, and SMU, this is only their second year in the conference. You took the conference by storm last year. Can you do it again this year? Don't have the schedule in front of me. I don't know if I want to pull it up just because of how weak it is in all likelihood. But I could definitely see them falling below Tennessee just given how unpredictable that league is, aside from Clemson. And then the only other team I didn't mention that's ahead of Tennessee in the poll is Ole Miss. And I think Ole Miss might be the sleeper team in the SEC this year because you look at their home schedule. First of all, they don't really have a difficult non-conference schedule. It's similar to what Tennessee's was in 2023, where you have like a weak Power 5 team at home, but the game that's actually difficult is against a good Group of 5 team in that way. And then it's not as if they don't play difficult games over the course of SEC play, but their difficult games, with the exception of Georgia and Oklahoma, are all home games. So they could easily stack some home wins, maybe finish the season with 9 or 10 wins and sneak into the college football playoff. And I know that sounds like it could be a bit of a stretch with Jackson Dart leaving, but believe me, they're very high on this Austin Simmons kid.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of hype about him in the offseason. I'm not really as familiar with him, so I'm about to look up his stats and see how he was.
He didn't do a ton last year, but he did stabilize their game against Georgia last season when Jackson Dart was hurt for a possession. He came in there, made some nice plays, and then ultimately helped bridge the gap there and of course, allowed Ole Miss to win that game last season. And other thing, too, this guy's already got his college degree at the age of 19, which is...
That's impressive.
Very impressive. Very, very impressive. So, not a ton of stats to go off of, which in a way I think does help Ole Miss because your opponents don't really have a feel for this guy just yet. So that should be a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's a good thing for sure. I think that's one thing that Tennessee's benefiting from this season. It's like these first couple of games when Tennessee's going to have to play. I mean, there's not going to be much known about their offense. I mean, you'd had just base it off the first couple of games of the year, like how Tennessee did against Syracuse. But of course, they're going to be learning during that time and still changing things up. So I think you can benefit from having an unfamiliar quarterback. And we mentioned before, like, how many times we've seen like NFL players just break out of nowhere because the starter got hurt and you've prepping for Aaron Rodgers all week. And then now you got Matt Flynn as a starting quarterback and you know nothing about him except for his college career or whatever. And then he comes in and shreds it up. And you know, that could be the case with Austin Simmons too. Maybe he doesn't live up to the hype. Maybe it was just the fact that the opposing teams weren't, or like Georgia wasn't, you know, just prepping for him to play, and then he ended up doing well. But Ole Miss being ranked ahead of Tennessee, I'm honestly not upset with that based on how they finished their season last year. I know Tennessee went to the playoffs and they didn't. I mean, I guess that's one knock you could have with the ranking, but I'm not too upset with Ole Miss being ahead of Tennessee.
All right, Jordan, that's all I have for tonight. Is there anything major that we missed over the course of the last week?
Not anything that I can think of. I mean, we mentioned that Jermon McCoy was All-American, and then Cedric Tillman and Dante Thornton are starters now. Besides that, yeah, nothing really else that I can think of.
All right, well, that is going to do it for us tonight on Tennessee Volunteers Live here on the Voice of College Football Network. Again, we appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. If you like what you see, please like, share, and subscribe to Tennessee at the Voice of College Football. It really helps us out and helps you get closer to all the fun Tennessee football content that you enjoy. For Jordan Binkley, I'm Tucker Harlan. We will talk to you guys again next week.